really don't like to talk about sculpture too much unless we are actually in front of a piece, or we're holding it, or we're passing it around and really exploring it. Sculpture is not as easy to work with as painting, which is by its nature, it's two-dimensional. It's flat works. So, but the question is, what about Zanabazar style sculpture? Well, Zanabazar style sculpture is a Mongolian style of Buddhist sculpture, and it is really coming from the late 17th century, and then well into the 18th and even into the 19th century, with some modern pieces even being created today. Now, the name, first of all, Zanabazar is really a corruption of the Sanskrit. It's a corruption of Jnana Vajra, so wisdom Vajra, like Vajra scepter, or the Vajra that Vajrapani holds. So it's Jnana Vajra, and in Tibetan it would be Yeshe Dorje. And this is a famous person born in 1635, passed away in 1723, and he is born in Mongolia, but believed to be the reincarnation of Jonang Taranata, Kunga Nyingpo. Jonang Taranata is a more common way of referring to him. And he died in 1635, and he was a leader, the head of the Jonang tradition of Tibet. He passed away, and then Yeshe Dorje was recognized, but there's a lot of controversy as to where he was recognized first, whether he was a Sakya incarnation, born in actually more west Mongolia, of Outer Mongolia, and then later recognized by the fifth Dalai Lama, and then brought up as Gelugpa, not as a Jonang. There's a lot of controversy. There's even controversy as to whether or not Jonang Taranata even went to Mongolia, where it's said that he died, hence the incarnation being reborn there. There's a lot of politics, and there's a lot of different biographies, and they're not always the same. So a lot of controversy. But what we do have is we have a tremendous amount of very beautiful sculpture done in this style. Now, we call it a style because it's distinct and it's unique. And I'm not going to go into too much of the style right now. That would take really too long. But it is said that Zanabazar, it's commonly said Zanabazar made a lot of the sculpture. Well, I personally don't believe this. I believe that he designed some of the more impressive and more important pieces. I don't know that he was actually in the blacksmith's workspace, in the foundry, with his face all blackened and his arms all black. I don't really think that's the case, being a very high lama. But yes, I believe he designed a lot of the important works, and I'd like to just mention what these works are, because they are still in existence. They're in museums. We have the first most famous works, is a set of 5 Buddhas, the 5 symbolic Buddhas. So they don't look like Buddhas, they look like peaceful deities, but it's the 5 symbolic Buddhas: Akshobhya, Amitabha, Vairochana, Ratnasambhava, Mogasiddhi, in peaceful attire. Very beautiful, very well done, of a medium size as well. Then we have, and these are in the Zanabazar Museum. I believe one might be in the Chojin Lama Temple Museum in Ulaanbaatar as well. Then we have a white Tara. Now, the white Tara is also said to be a speaking white Tara. It talks. If you're a very faithful Buddhist practitioner and devotee, then you can approach this sculpture, which again is on display in the Zanabazar Museum, and it might just talk. Then we have the Winter Palace Museum, and that's a little bit on the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar, and it has a set which is incomplete, but the majority of the set is there, of 21 Taras. There's a green Tara, and there's an Ekajati. The Marichi is missing because it is actually in the Rubin Museum of Art in New York City. And then there are approximately 17 of the of the 21 Taras in the Atisha tradition. So they're each holding a vase in the outstretched right hand. Then in terms of famous, we have the four-armed Lokeshvara. This is in a private collection, and it is one of the world's best. Again, we have to look at style and chronology and region when we talk about best or masterworks. There's no such thing as just one masterwork. It depends on aesthetics, time period, place. So we also have a Zanabazar himself, a Yeshe Dorje portrait that may well have been designed by Zanabazar when he was alive, and it's also of a larger size. All of these sculptures are of a larger size, so it's really quite impressive. When I say larger size, they can be 1.5 to 2.5 feet. Now, there are other images, but these 5 that I've mentioned are really the most famous amongst art historians and people that study Mongolian sculpture. These are very well known. So I'm just touching on this subject because it's really too big to talk about in a short period. So you can press the like button, you can subscribe, and you can also help support the work we do by joining HAR on Patreon.